united of the Lord, Yeshua. As your beloved holiness instructor, teacher Simon, about to get into the book. I thank all those, Facebook, YouTube, all those that's actually watching the videos and paying attention, all those that's just watching and not making the phone call and does not have a congregation. You need to be looking for a congregation. It's winding up. This land, persecution is on the way. I keep telling you guys, persecution is on the way. I'll start giving some stuff out, giving you guys some information. Right now I don't put out too much information because I'm trying to stay under the radar, make sure all the saints be able to deal with persecution safely till the time that I can start putting some things that's going on in the land on blast. But with all that sin being done, I appreciate you guys, all the people, guests here, and all the members here, and all the people thinking about striving to be a guest or a member. All that, I appreciate you guys. All the people up north, all the people across the states that's striving to enter into the kingdom that is called by the Almighty, that's predestinated, that when the Lord called for holiness, they say, here I am. When the Almighty called and said, who will be righteous, who will believe in me, who will have faith in me, that they rose up and said, we will, Lord. God said, being done, let's get into the book, because if we're not careful, I'm going to be doing some teaching, if we're not careful, even though we do the service of the Lord, but our heart's not right, it's going to lead to destruction. And the Almighty always tries the reins of the heart. So let's let the fingers do the walking and the scriptures do the talking. Let's do it. Now I'll be dealing with that New Year's too. I might make a small little video on their false little January 1st New Year's. That ain't no biblical New Year's. That's a Gregorian New Year's. I don't go by no Gregorian calendar. I go by the biblical calendar. If that's your New Year's, that's the sinner's New Year's. The righteous people New Year's is coming up this April, in the month of Abib. All right, Luke chapter 8, don't hate, verse 15. But that on the good ground are they which in an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it and bring forth fruit with much patience. Now we dealt with this a couple of Sabbaths ago about the good ground and whatnot, but it's showing you that you hear the word and you receive it out of a pure heart. Because you could receive the word and you can actually do the word, but if your heart's not right, there's no longevity in it. There's no longevity. I see people time and time again come in these doors and they start keeping the Sabbath. They start repenting from smoking or drinking or fornicating or whoremonger or adultery. They start eating clean. They start doing the commandments of the law and the prophets, keeping the commandments of the Almighty, but it's not with a pure heart. It's not with a pure heart, and it leads to their own destruction. Well, let's keep going. Give me 2 Chronicles chapter 25. 2 Chronicles chapter 25. We're going to start at verse 1. In Amaziah, we're going to go to verse 16. And Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jehoiakim of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right, that's good, in the sight of the Lord, but not with the perfect heart. So he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, but his heart wasn't right. It wasn't perfect. He had a heart towards the Almighty, but it wasn't perfect. Now it came to pass when the kingdom was established to him, he slew his servants that had killed the king his father. He slew not their children, but as it is written in the law of the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, saying, the father shall not die for the children, neither shall the children die for the fathers, but every man shall die for his own sin. Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together and made them captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, according to the houses of their fathers, throughout all of Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them at 20 years old and above, and found them 300,000 choice men able to go forth to war, and they could handle the spear and the shield. He hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents of silver. But there came a man of God unto him, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with thee, for the Lord is not with Israel, with all the children of Ephraim. But if thou wilt go, do it. Be strong for the battle. God shall make thee fall. God shall make thee fall before the enemy, for God hath power to help and to cast down. And Amaziah said unto the man of God, well, what shall we do with the 100 talents that I have given unto the army of Israel? And the man of God answered, the Lord is able to give thee much more than this. Then Amaziah separated them to with in the army. See, he obeyed the man of God. And with the army that was come to him, out of Ephraim, and to go home again. Wherefore the anger of greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in great anger. And Amaziah strengthened himself, and led forth the people, and went into the valley of Salt, and smote the children of Seir 10,000. And the other 10,000 left alive did the children of Israel carry away captive, and brought them unto the top of the rock, and cast them down to the top of the rock, and they were all broken in pieces. And the soldiers of the army, so the Almighty let them win the battle. He even obeyed the man of God, and he was keeping the laws. We just read that. But the soldier of the army, which Amaziah sent back, that they should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria even to Bethhoron, and smote 3,000 of them, and took much spoil. Now it came to pass after that Amaziah was come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir, and set them up to be his gods. And he bowed down himself before them, and burnt incense unto them. Wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah, and he sent unto him a prophet, and said unto him, Why hast thou sought after the gods of thy people, which could not deliver their own people out of their hand? And it came to pass, as he talked with him, that the king said unto him, Art thou made of the king's counsel? Forbear, why should thou be smitten? Then the prophet forbare, and said, I know that God hath determined to destroy thee, because thou hast done this, and hast not hearkened unto my counsel. So the first time the Almighty, he did that was right in the sight of the Lord. He killed the man, but he didn't kill their children. That killed his father, because he was keeping the laws. And then a prophet comes and say, hey, the Almighty doesn't want you to do this, and comes to correct him, right? So he didn't despise the prophet. He obeyed the prophet. But then when he was going to do something else that displeased the Lord, the Almighty sent another prophet, because the Almighty was with him, and this time he didn't want to hearken. So the Almighty ended up killing him. So we'll find, I'll bring that back to this day and age, we find that there's going to come people that will do that which is right in the sight of the Almighty, but it ain't going to be with a perfect heart. And because it's not with a perfect heart, there's no longevity. So this is why you have to ask yourself, is there anything in my walk with God that I'm transgressing, that is hard for me to give up, that is hard for me to do? Is there anything that could hinder me walking with the Almighty? Because in the end, it will be your ruin. Whether it be lusting, whether it be telling lies, whatever it is, whether it be putting family and compromising the gospel for family, it will be your ruin. There is no longevity. The only people that have longevity is people that receive the word with honesty and a pure heart. If you're not 100% honest, it's like you have to be 100% honest with your wife. And if you're not 100% honest with your wife, sooner or later down the road, a situation is going to come up to where it's going to hinder your growth. And this is the same thing with the Almighty. If you're not 100% honest with your walk, when you think I can obey 95 and I'll just compromise this 10%, that 10% will be your ruin. It will be your destruction. But let's keep going in the book. Matthew. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians right now. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. Then we're going to hit Matthew. Second Corinthians chapter 9. We'll start at verse 5. Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren, he's warning the brethren, that thou wilt go before unto you, and make you up beforehand your bounty, wherefore you have noticed before, that the same might be ready as the matter of the bounty, and not of covetousness. So he's sending people to get money from the Corinthians so he can help Jerusalem. But I say this, he that which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he that soweth bountifully shall also reap bountifully. Every man according as he purposed in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. This is everything we do. We don't want to say, oh man, I got to read. Oh man, I got to pray. Oh man, I got to go to service. Or I got to go to Sabbath service. Man, I'm so tired. I really don't feel like going to Sabbath service. Oh, dude, man, if only, man, I wish I could do this, but man, I serve the Lord, so I can't do this. And you're all down and whatnot. God, the Almighty loves a cheerful giver. The Almighty loves a cheerful giver. He'll say, hey, don't even worry about it. You'll come in a situation where you ask your kids or ask your wife or ask your mom or you ask your son, daughter, whatever the case may be, hey, I need you to do that. And they storm, oh, okay. Like, man, don't even, if you're going to give me an attitude, don't even worry about it. I'll do it. you're going to want your kids to do stuff, to go get your keys or whatever the case may be, and be cheerful. Oh, no problem, Dad, I'll do it. Oh, no problem, Mom, I'll do it. But when you do it, oh, yes, man. It's like, don't even worry about it, son. You got a little attitude. I like a cheerful giver. How do you think the Almighty is? He loves a cheerful giver. Let's keep going. Like Amaziah, he did that which was right inside the Lord, but not with a perfect heart. In like manner, the Almighty loves a cheerful giver. And when you're obeying, but you're not doing cheerfully, there's no longevity in it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to start to despise the things of the Almighty. Because you're not cheerful. The Almighty loves a cheerful giver. Let's keep going. Matthew chapter 12. This ain't even no tithes message either. I'm not doing that to do tithes and offering. I do believe whatever congregation you got, you should be giving. In that congregation, if you have a pastor that's not here for you when your rent's short or when your lights are cut off, or you have a minister or elder that's not there for you to take care of you, and you're putting in the Lord Almighty's treasury, then you have a problem. That's covenants right there. But if you have a congregation, you should be putting in that treasury, because that goes to feeding the homeless, taking care of the widows, taking care of the fatherless, buying cards, electricity, feeding the people for the feast days. That goes to taking care of the people Almighty and the work of the ministry. So if you ain't putting it in there, you should start putting it in there. And if you're putting it in there, your leader should be able to take care of you when you're in need. It should be a family. It's not like these liquor store churches where the pastor has the nicest house, has the nicest car, living large, refrigerator well furnished, and your refrigerator is desolate. Look like a desert. Look like Mojave. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going. Matthew chapter 12. Amen. We're going to start at verse 41. Matthew chapter 12, verse 41. Or Mark chapter 12. I apologize. Mark chapter 12. That's not what I'm looking for. Mark chapter 12, verse 41. And Yeshua sat over against the treasury, and behold, how people cast money in the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which was a farthing. And he called unto him his disciples, and said unto him, Verily I say unto you, that this poor widow that cast in more in than all they which cast in their treasury, for all they did cast in of their abundance, but she of want did cast in all that she had, even her own living. Even her own living. Now that lets you know, that hits like 3 different things. One, the Almighty isn't focused on actually how much you cast in. He focused on what's in the heart. Their heart, there's no problem. It didn't pull on their heart to cast in out of their abundance. But it pulled on that woman's heart, man, this is all I have, but I want to give to the Almighty. So he's dealing with people with a pure heart. Number 2, it shows that when you see members or people, shalom and praise the Lord and how you doing, and they're all this and they're selfish and don't want to help the work of the Lord, because it takes money if you have a building to keep those lights on. It takes money for the people that are in the ministry working for the gospel, the cars, the flyers, getting videos edited, whatever the finances and the overhead it takes to keep the congregation running. It costs money, but you don't want to give in. But we see this woman give her own living. You're like, oh, I can't give in, man. Rent's due coming up. I got rent on the 1st. This woman casting all her living, and the Almighty commended her. When's your faith going to get that strong? Why can't you say, you know what, I'll put this whole paycheck in. Well, I'll put this whole paycheck in. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. You're like, oh, the Almighty gave you wisdom. That's not wise. That's foolish. That's dumb. That's not wise. But why didn't the Almighty call this woman dumb? Why didn't he call her foolish? Because it says she even cast in all her living. Why didn't the Almighty why is this even notated in the scripture? Why didn't he condemn her? Why didn't he say she sinned? Because he said, look at her heart. Her heart was right towards the Almighty. And serving the Lord, she had a perfect heart, and it wasn't grievous, it wasn't burdensome to him. Because she was a cheerful giver. It took nothing for those people that had money to give in. That's out of abundance. For me, if I'm a billionaire and I needed to give someone $500, that's like pennies to me. I have billions. $500, that's pennies to me. Well, that's someone that only makes $2,000 a month and they need to dish out $500. They'll be like, man, that's tight. That's 1/4 of my income. Let that billionaire give 1/4 of their income. They wouldn't even do it. They wouldn't even do it. But let's keep going. The Almighty loves a cheerful giver. Now let's go to Matthew chapter 11. Matthew chapter 11. Let's start at verse 28. Come unto me, all ye that are heavy laden, and I will give thee rest. Take on my yoke upon you, and learn of me, and I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. So, the Almighty loves a cheerful giver. But the problem is, you may not say serving the Almighty is inconvenient, or serving the Almighty is grievous, or serving the Almighty is burdensome. You may not say that, but you live like that. You live like that. Because it says, we see Amaziah, he did that was right with the Lord, but not with a perfect heart. And if your heart's not right with the Almighty, there's some commandment in your life that is hard for you to give up. So it's grievous for you. That is hard for you to give up. So it's burdensome to you. There is something in your life, whether it be stopping watching these movies with men dressing like women, or stop watching these movies with cussing or sexing. There's something that is grievous to you, so you're forsaken that way. So it's burdensome to you. So it's grievous to you. There's something in your walk with the Almighty that is causing you to be a repeat offender and sinning against the Almighty. So what is it? And if you know what it is, put it down and live holy. Why let that sin be your ruin? Why let that sin be eternal damnation? And I use that word in context. But let's keep going. It says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The way of the Almighty is easy. I don't have to worry about no STDs. I don't have to worry about getting arrested for no DUI. I don't have to worry about getting shot at because I want to gangbang, or because I want to pimp, because I want to sell drugs. There's a lot of things you don't even have to worry about if you're serving the Almighty, or you and your wife is serving the Almighty, or you and your kids are serving the Almighty, or you have a body of believers that's serving the Almighty. It's easy. You got true friends and true love. We're supposed to. When you have some true saints of the Almighty, you have true friends and true love. But let's keep going. Proverbs chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 13. And we're going to hit verse 15. Good understanding giveth favor, but the way of a transgressor is hard. So the Almighty just said, hey, come all ye that are heavy laden, heavy burdened. Hey, take on my yoke, it's light, it's easy. It says the way of a transgressor is hard. And the reason why it's hard is because they forsake the way. The reason why you see people come to a congregation and continue to come to a congregation but be a repeat sinner and live in hypocrisy is because it's hard. The way of a transgressor is hard. They don't want to come to the light. There's things they just don't want to give up. They might even be serving the Almighty, but it's not with a perfect heart, which leads to hypocrisy, which leads to eternal damnation. But let's keep going. The way of a transgressor is hard. I thank the Almighty. There's certain things that may be pleasurable. I was talking about the other day when I was fasting the false Easter and all that stuff with the Cadbury cream eggs. Hey, those were pleasurable. It says the pleasure of sin is but for a season. Little Valentine's Day, little heart candies and whatnot. Those things are good, but they're unclean. They have unclean stuff in it. Hey, the pleasure of sin is but for a season. Hey, there's certain things that you had pleasure, but hey, I know, hey, that stuff is leading me to damnation. I'm not celebrating no false Easter, worshiping no false God. I celebrate the Easter that's notated in the scripture, and Easter is a Greek name for the Passover, and Yeshua died on the Passover. He wasn't rose again on no Easter. He died on the Passover. So I'll be dealing with that in a couple of months, dealing with how these false liquor store churches calling on Easter, saying he resurrected. He didn't resurrect on Easter. He died on Easter. Look it up, Dumbo. It amazes me that how you going to have a pastor saying he calls to the ministry and he's lying. He's saying the gospel is a death, burial, and resurrection in Yeshua HaMashiach. And you don't even have the death and the burial right. You just know he resurrected. You don't even have the day right. So you don't have none of the gospel right. You don't even have the foundations. Easter means Passover. it says clearly in the Bible that Yeshua died on the Passover, and he says he is our Passover. So how can he die and be resurrected the same day? When it says, just like in the belly of the whales, just like Jonah was in the belly of the whale, 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man destroy this temple in 3 days, I should be raised up. So if Easter means the Passover, so he died on Easter, how are you saying he resurrected on Easter? That's how dumb these pastors are. They can't even get a basic concordance. What is this thing? They can't even get a basic book, a Strong's Concordance, and look at what Easter means. It means the Passover. That's a Greek name for the Passover. So how are you going to say he resurrected when we clearly see he died on the Passover? That's just dumb. If you go to a congregation that's preaching that little Easter egg bunny and all that foolishness, get out of that hellhole. There ain't no way in the world the Almighty called him. Because it says we built on the foundations of the apostles and prophets, Yeshua HaMashiach being the chief cornerstone. That's part of the foundations of the whole gospel. Knowing when he died and when he rose again. They don't even have the foundations right. That ain't even a church in holiness. That whole church, everyone who celebrates Easter according to the world does it, is going to the lake of fire. Everyone who celebrates Christmas, Thanksgiving, or any other pagan day is going to the lake of fire. That's Bible. It says, and all idolaters shall have their part in the lake of fire. You're practicing idolatry, you're going to the lake of fire. Let's keep going. Jeremiah 23. Let's do this thing with the perfect heart. Every day, the Bible says, examine yourself, see if you're in the faith. You want to make sure your heart is right. You could run this race all you want. It's like having a track team. And on this track team, there's always 2 of those people are there because their parents put them there. But they're running, but they're not giving it their all. They're running, not expecting to win. You could be on a football team and they're going to try to play, but they're not trying to win. They're not trying to give it their all. They're playing the game, but their heart ain't right with the whole team. They're just going to do the bare minimum to get by. Just like people going to school, they do the bare. Long as I get a C, then your heart's not even right. You should be aiming to get an A+ in that class, but I'm just trying to pass. You're going to school, but it's not with a perfect heart. You ain't going, oh, let me just try to get good grades because my parents are going to put me on punishment. Yeah, because it's not with a perfect heart. Just because you're supposedly serving the Almighty, but it's not with a perfect heart, there's no longevity in it. You got to question your motives on how you're keeping the Sabbath. Question your motives with how you're buying your food. Am I looking at the ingredients or I just assume, oh, it's good? And question your motives when you're dealing with your family. Everything needs to be examined. And make sure you're not compromising in any area. Because you can have other areas down packed, but there will be a couple of areas in your walk with the Almighty that's not right. Get it right. It's tight, but it's right. Let's keep going. Jeremiah 23. It goes for me too. The battle is in the mind. I always want to make sure my motives and my agendas and the things I do, the things I say, and who I hang around, how I present myself around my co-workers is right. That I don't entertain things that we shouldn't entertain. Perfect example. I was around an unbeliever. We're working together. He put on some Hispanic music. I didn't know, so I was like, all right, it was a little mariachi music. That's typically not saying bad stuff in mariachi music. You know, bum, 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 that type of music. Fine. Next day, he tried to put on some rap. I was like, man, you burning my ears, man. I was like, he said, I'm going on the roof. I was like, take your poison up there. But I put it out there so he could change the music because they'll try to get away. And it's like, you have to hold a standard. Like, oh, man, put on some stuff I don't even understand. That way I know I don't have to get that wickedness, that poison in my mind. I don't want to hear about no cuss words and all that stuff. That music, keep that music to yourself. I'm not going to force you to repent and come to the gospel and whatnot. Don't force your nasty music on me. Don't force that stuff on me. You always got to... you could come, this and this, and not say nothing, and nah. You always got to check. Make sure you're standing. Make sure your candles burn bright. Make them feel ashamed to play that music around you. Make them feel ashamed to say conversations like that around you. No, they shouldn't be comfortable because you're light and you're burning bright, and your candle is burning. It's bringing fire. It's bringing condemnation on their lifestyle to the point to where they get interested and they ask you a question and it opens the doorway for you to share the gospel. That's usually how it works. Jeremiah 23. Let's start at verse 33. Jeremiah 23, verse 33. And when this people or the prophet or the priest shall ask thee, saying, what is the burden of the Lord? Then thou shalt say unto them, what burden? I will even forsake you, said the Lord. So these are some people coming saying, oh, what's the burden of the Lord? Now, oh, what did the Almighty say to you? Or what's the commandments of the Lord? You may not say what's the burden of the Lord, but you live like it. Because whenever it's time for you to go to service, oh man, whenever it's time for you to put money in the offering tray, man, I'm broke. And you act like it's a burden. So the Almighty says, man, He'll forsake you. Don't even worry about it. You're not a chill forgiver. You're not serving me with a perfect heart. And then when you put the money in the plate and your heart's not right, you put it in there because everyone's watching. You put it in there because you feel obligated, but your heart's not right, and the Almighty already sees your heart. He knows you're not a chill forgiver, so He's still going to forsake you for it. Let's keep going. It says, I'll finish off 33. I will even forsake you, said the Lord. And as for the prophet and the priest and the people that shall say, the burden of the Lord, I will even punish that man and his house. Thus shall you say, everyone to his neighbor and everyone to his brother, what have the Lord answered, and what have the Lord spoken? And the burden of the Lord shall not ye mention no more, for every man's word shall be his burden. For ye have perverted the words of the living God, of the Lord of hosts our God. Thus shall you say unto the prophet, what have the Lord answered thee, or what have the Lord spoken? But since you say the burden of the Lord, therefore thus saith the Lord, because you say the burden of the Lord, I have sent unto you, saying, ye shall not say the burden of the Lord. Therefore, behold, even I will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you. And the city that I gave unto you and your fathers, cast you out of my presence. I will bring an everlasting reproach upon you, and a perpetual shame which shall not be forgotten. That happened to these people, and it continues to happen to people because you want to say, what is the burden of the Lord? You live like serving the Lord is a burden. When He says, hey, my burden and my yoke is light, it's easy. It says the way of a transgressor is hard. But because you want to live, you tell a woman, oh, you can't be wearing makeup. Oh, what? I got to dress modest. I got to wear this dress. I got to cover my head. I can't be wearing jewelry. I got to do this. You live like it's a burden. What is so hard for you to take that jewelry off when the Bible condemns women wearing it? When you get in the kingdom, He'll adorn us in some apparel when He brings His kingdom here. But until then, women shouldn't be wearing jewelry. Women shouldn't be wearing makeup. Women need to cover their head when they pray and prophesy, because it's a shame if they don't do it. All women need to dress modest. They shouldn't be wearing no pants, because that's not modest and it shows your silhouette. There's no way you're going to get out of saying it's okay to wear pants when the Bible clearly says women adorn themselves in modest apparel. And pants are made, women's pants, they're not even women's pants because women shouldn't be wearing them. The pants that they make for women, because they're not women's pants, is made and tailored to show their curves and caters to their curves, which leads you to not being modest, which leads you to disobeying Timothy and Peter. The book of Timothy and the book of Peter. The epistle to Timothy and Peter. So how are you going to get around that? But you're like, the reason why women fight it? Oh man, this is why women don't even come to the congregation to get saved. Because they know they got to give up their makeup, they got to give up their jewelry, and they got to give up their pants. And what happens? The word of the Lord becomes a burden to them. And so what happened? He's going to forsake you and forget you. You ain't never going to get into the kingdom because you don't want to humble yourself to be saved. And then if you do it, then you have the group that actually does it. They give up their makeup, they give up their jewelry, and they give up their pants, and they live, and they start dressing according to holiness, to what the scripture says. But it's not with a perfect heart. Man, I just wish I could wear some pants again. I wish I could show some cleavage. I wish I could put some makeup. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do this. Your heart's not even right. You're not even a chill forgiver. Yeah, you're obeying, but you're not a chill forgiver. You're like Amaziah. He did that which was right in the sight of the Almighty, but not with a perfect heart. You ain't getting away. Proverbs chapter 15. We're going to start at verse 9. Proverbs 15, 9. The way of the wicked is an abomination unto the Lord, but He loveth him that followeth after righteousness. Follow after righteousness, and He's going to love you. That's Bible. Correction is grievous unto him that forsaketh the way, and he that hateth reproof shall die. So when the Almighty, what happened in Jeremiah, these people, they were saying, what's the burden of the Lord? Almighty, the prophets come to correct the people. Give them commandments on how to keep the Sabbath. Don't give them commandments on how to treat your neighbor. The prophets came to give correction to the people. So what did they say? They say, what is the burden of the Lord? Because they forsake correction. We just said they forsake correction. The people that forsake correction, the people that don't like correction, it's because they forsake of the way. It's grievous. It's grievous. Those people that dislike correction forsake the way. So the commandments come. Thou shalt not, thou shalt do, thou shalt not, thou shalt do. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as you love thyself. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not commit fornication. Thou shalt not work on the Sabbath. Oh, now it gets grievous. Oh, man, I can't work, man. I got an opportunity to make money. Rent's due. How am I going to do this on the Sabbath? It's grievous to you. Why? Because you forsake the way. You forsake the way. Women got to dress in modest apparel. I know why it's so hard for you? Because you forsake the way. Because you forsake the way. And even if you obey, and it's not with a perfect heart, there's no longevity with it. So with all that said and being done, keep standing, don't drop standards. Make sure your heart's right. If there's any area, make sure your heart's right. If you have questions, 619-511-1375. The time is rolling up. I'm not even really looking for too many more members, to tell you the truth. Because I have enough to protect my flock to get ready for persecution. I have just enough. People want to come and play. If you have any questions, you want to do the right thing, we ain't going to turn down people. 619-511-1375. But other than that, if you want to play around, if I just a lovely song, you just like listening to me, and you just want to do your own thing, whatever the case may be, do what you do, boo. Because guess what? This land is going to eat you up. And if you ain't on the Almighty side, you're done. Thought I said being done, keep standing, don't drop standards. Give the Almighty a hand clap.